is.
That whole thing, I was sitting here listening to you guys and thinking about the whole courage piece and the starting doing your work and then having these meaningful experiences and all that. It sort of made me. I started thinking about like hypersensitivity and people's sensitivity in their experience, and like, there's a lot of people that are offended all the time.
Yeah.
They're offended by other people all the time.
Yeah.
And other things that are happening outside of them and stuff. And I can't help but to think like, what a weird thing.
Yeah. So where do you think that comes from?
Oh,
in your opinion?
I don't want to define that problem, and I'm not a psychologist.
Fair.
But I can say, logically speaking, that is a problem happening from the inside.
Yeah, I would say that too.
They believe is problems happening on the outside.
Yeah. Or finding problems on the outside to avoid problems on the inside, maybe.
See, I think it's more.
Well, you're always in control of your judgment of anything outside or inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making these judgments of everything outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not making fun of these people. I would like to be able to help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're making these judgments about it, all this stuff on the outside of them, and then they're banging their emotions against their own judgment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, who gives a shit what anybody else is doing?
Unless,
you know what I mean?
If
like,
you're not feeding me, financing me, or the other one, the other F, right? Why does it matter, right?
Or even if it matters to you, like you're still not in control of their opinion of you,
right?
Like maybe you think you can control them, but you can't.
Yeah.
So
right now, you can't even control yourself. In this aspect.
Yeah. It's hard enough to control yourself, right? So I'm thinking to myself, like, man, how do you break through to these people? And, it's an interesting dilemma because they're going to be offended.
Yeah.
They're going to be defensive.
I think the big thing that I've experienced when people are offended about things, at least from my point of view in this world, I don't know how psychology backs this up. I haven't done enough research on it, but it's either fear or insecurity, or a lack of understanding. One of those three things usually end up in a place where you're going to judge someone harshly. You're going to be offended by it because of one of those things.
So you're projecting your shadow shit on them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, right? And so
how
you're
do
saying that's coming from inside versus
right.
it's something else. Like, I think it's who you are, how you're projecting your views onto the world.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's usually...
And it's very apparent because you'll see people like, there's lots of famous videos now, like some Karen will just walk on somebody's property and she'll be extremely mad at him because he's washing his own car on his own property or something.
Right, It's Thursday. What are you doing?
Clearly...
You're wasting all that water.
Clearly the problem's happening inside of this person.
Yeah.
But how do you communicate with a person in that state?
So I've ran into, with the managing that I've done in the past and things like that, when I come to somebody with, they're doing something wrong or something, that they shouldn't be doing, that kind of thing, something that somebody could feel attacked by me saying, right? What I try to do is I give them the 1 minute sandwich. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, The 1 Minute Manager, but that'll change your life as a manager if you've never read it. It's a way to, if you don't know how to word the problem and then figure out the solution and then give a compliment all in the same 1 minute, then you don't know what the problem is yet, right? If I can't tell you what the problem is, tell you what you need to adjust, and then tell you why you're worthy of me giving you this guidance and why I'm, giving you the energy because you are capable of doing this, that kind of thing. A compliment sandwich is a good way to go about it, is what I found. So, you say, hey, I love the effort. I love what you're doing, or what have you. But I think if we adjust here, and I don't do that right off the bat. I try to just come straight forward and be like, hey, here's a problem. Let's fix that, right? When somebody reacts in an attacked way or a negative way to something like that, I try to say, hey, this wasn't, I apologize. Let's back up a little bit. I wasn't trying to make you feel this way. What did I say that upset you there? And then when we find that out, well, let's find out why that was upsetting to you. Was it upsetting because it wasn't true, or you feel some kind of way about it because of this or that? Or was it upsetting because you don't like the idea that you're doing something wrong?
I come back to my earlier thing.
Those are good questions.
Support through
And if
inquiry.
you're not willing, and if you're not willing to answer those honestly to me, later on after this conversation, you're definitely going to go home and answer them to yourself. And if you don't, then there's your problem anyway.
Right. And you're going, even if you say or do something wrong, and you need to backtrack to get to a place of level ground, neutral ground, even like where we can then move forward and still solve the problem. You're asking questions. It's supporting someone else through the inquiry of asking a question. You're trying to get to a desired outcome. How do you do that?
It makes the person think that what they're saying is you're listening. You're hearing them.
You're hearing them. It's empowering to them as well. And so, like you say, like how do you get through to somebody who is offended by something, right? You could obviously ask the question, well, why are you offended by that? But they're not going to give you a real answer.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So find a different approach, a different question to ask, right? And then you can start to get behind the scenes. You can peek behind that curtain a little bit and understand.
Try to find some common ground somewhere.
Like, where's the
I like where
fear,
we're going with
insecurity.
this. I like your input on this. The only thing that I do that seems to work, that would complement it really well, the questions. Because what I do for myself is I use meditation to practice being aware, aware of my emotions and thoughts. I can look at them objectively as they're happening, disconnect from them, and make...
That takes some work. Being able to do that,
but people say it takes some work, but they don't. Those are the people that aren't putting in practice at it.
Yeah, it becomes easier and easier as you...
It sounds hard if you don't ever try it.
Right.
Like anything else.
Sometimes you're surprised and it's way easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've noticed dealing with offended people or people that I know I cannot use reason with.
Yeah.
That I will actually have this awareness experience with them. And you said to listen to them well and ask them questions. And that's sort of part of the effect that I'll do. Like, I'll just be like, oh, it seems to me that you're offended.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll wait. And they'll be like, and it sort of makes them aware of themselves. They're like,
oh, I am triggered by that.
I'm acting offended, and he's listening to me, noticed me, and now he's just staring at me, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, so you made them aware of themselves.
Yeah. And the phrasing that you use there really matters, right? It seems like you're offended. You have a sense that someone else is offended. It's not, hey, you're offended right now.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's accusatory. It's going to put them on the defensive. You're saying,
right.
Hey, it seems like you're offensive. It's going to make them uncomfortable. Yeah, because it's an uncomfortable statement. It's the realization like, hey, I am offended in this moment.
Yeah, but the fact that I'm trying to deeply understand them makes them kind of have to start deeply understanding themselves if they want to communicate it to me.
Absolutely.
Because how can they answer that? Like, yes, I am. I'm like,
okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even ask why, man, because I'm just
at that point.
Yeah, no, I just say okay. That's okay.
Sorry, we're not going to come to an agreement here. You know?
Oh no, it's okay for you to not be okay, man.
Right. Yeah.
It's not ever going to be my problem.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
But I'll do it with you. We'll stand together.
Yeah.
Just be offended.
Yeah, we'll just both be upset right now. Yeah. You know?
There's a book I read about a handful of years or so ago. It's called Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, I believe, is the author. He was a long-term FBI lead negotiator. Like big events that have happened in the world, this guy led the negotiation, right?
Negotiation's such an art.
Yes, it is. And the way he goes about breaking down all of the things that he did that were successful in the field and helped actually develop the FBI strategy of how to negotiate with people that are not willing to negotiate at all, right? How do you break through to those people, right? First off, it's understanding what their goals are, right? But the only way you're going to do that is to ask, right? So like you talk about, hey, you're offended. Okay, that's great. What's the next targeted question you could ask them? And like he talks about targeted questions as a way to get to a place of understanding. So if you understand what they're trying to do, it's going to matter. But part of the targeted question is also the wording, how it matters, right? So like, I'm sure you guys have been in a conversation with somebody where eventually they just get fatigued and they're like, yeah, that's right. Or no, you're right. You're right.
Or
I'm
they
wrong.
start with personal attacks.
Anything like that, right?
Yeah, when somebody starts personally attacking me in a discussion, I realize that the logic is out the window, and now they're
back to full blown.
They're coming out of their emotions, not their mind.
They start using exclusionary tactics. They're trying to win. They're not trying to find
they're not trying to find a solution. They're
or an agreement,
everyone,
or at least an agreement.
Yeah. But Chris Voss, he breaks down the word choices matter, right? So something as much as
Language
"Yep,
forms
you're
reality.
right, you're right." Well, what that does to the person that you're saying that to is that they no longer care. They don't care what I have to say anymore. They're just fatigued. They're no longer in this negotiation.
Yeah, there's
They're
another
immediately on the defensive. I will never get through to them. But if you change something and just say, "Hey, you know what? That's right," you're agreeing with them just by changing one word instead of saying "you're right." Even if you actually believe that they're right, by saying "you're right," it's gonna have that negative effect to it. Because it's not that you agree that they're right.
Yeah.
You're just succumbing to the fact that you're right, I'm wrong.
that
That's
concept
like-
is right.
No, that's right.
That
Now
communication piece.
it's a problem solving together by okay, I agree. That's right. That's right.
So
That's not my opinion, that's not your opinion. That is right.
back to the
Words
topic
matter.
that the prompt that brought this along was how do you deal with triggered people or people that seem like they're not gonna listen to what you have to say, and they're offended. Jordan Peterson has a quote where if you're talking to somebody and they're not listening, stop talking and start talking to somebody that will listen.
That's good advice. I do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I use a lot of eye contact with people like that.
Yeah, it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's something about prolonged eye contact where, communication matters. My body language matters. If I'm calm, very calm but very assertive and not at all afraid to watch you lose your shit.
Yeah, I will watch you lose it.
Sooner or later,
Man, this is crazy.
Sooner or later, the person losing their shit's going to get this little feeling in the back of their head like,
Hey, I'm messed up here, aren't I?
yeah, I'm out of sorts here.
Yeah.
Like,
Even
I'm
if I was right before, now I'm definitely wrong.
Yeah, right.
Or
Yeah.
at least how I'm handling this is wrong.
Yeah. And this guy's like, there's something, we've known this since ancient Greeks. Yeah, if you let somebody anger you, you've given them the authority over you. You've given them the power over you.
Yeah.
And when you react in any way to someone who's upset, that power exchange happens. They're in control of you in some way. As soon as you stop doing that, it really disrupts whatever was happening inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to run away or you have to cower in the face of confrontation.
Right, but stop feeding into
But you can listen. You don't have to give up any ground to listen.
yeah.
Not at all.
It's not, you can just listen and watch people go through the emotions and the things. And then after a while, they almost have no choice but to deal with themselves because they have nothing coming in from you.
Yeah, they're talking to a bric wall.
Yeah. It's sort of interesting to watch.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of situations like that where, in customer service roles, things like that, where somebody come in, they're just telling you all about yourself and how you're this or that, or the company you're working for is this, and and then I just look at them. A lot of times, one of my favorite things when I was running gas stations was, well, there's the door. Calm, cool. There's the door.
Yeah.
Or we can stand here and we can talk like reasonable human beings.
Yeah.
And you can talk to me like I'm here to help you because I'm actually here to help you.
Right.
And if you don't think that I'm here to help you, it doesn't matter
Then why
what
are
I'm
you
going to
even
say
here?
here. It's not going to help. Yeah. So if you don't want to sit and talk with me and be on the same team and work towards, the best solution we can come to as a team here, there's the door.
Yeah, and it's so great when both sides get on that page.
Yeah.
Then finding an agreement.
That's when progress is made.
Yeah, finding an agreement is so much easier than it seems. This, I don't know if anybody's quoted this, but the way I feel about it is that the only thing that's ever in the way of an agreement is an emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never heard it put that way, so I like that, but I agree with
I mean, if
that.
you try hard enough, you can find some sort of way things will work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will it always be the best version of that? Maybe not.
Right.
Or
But
at least you don't feel.
But you
Yeah.
can make it work.
Even if there's compromises involved.
Yeah.
If there's not an emotion between it, it's super easy to find agreements with people.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're very similar.
Yeah.
Like-
way more alike than we like to pretend.
We all have the same feelings, the same thoughts, the same ideas. Like, how hard could it be to find an agreement on some basic shit? Really?
Yeah. On, like, where are we going to eat for lunch?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's just let's take a pause here and let's talk about that. The decisions of having to find food and decide what to eat every day, all the time, especially if you've got kids.
Nobody told me that the hardest part about being an adult was figuring out what's for dinner every day. But I tell you what, man, it is a whole decision, isn't it?
There are two.
I'm married with 2 daughters.
Yeah.
So you understand.
I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
If there are 2 things,
Sometimes
that
I
if
make
never-
2 dinners or 3 dinners.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I've had situations like that myself. Yeah. There's times where there's a special meal made for the 5-year-old. Let's get.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure.
I try not to give in too much to that.
So Conrad, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say that there are 2 things about like the chores in life, right? Deciding what's for dinner and all that. If there are 2 things that if I never had to do ever again, it would still be too soon. I love food. Clearly, I love food, but having to decide what to eat, I cannot stand. I don't like it. It bugs me every time. It's fun sometimes when you're like exciting or doing something out of the ordinary.
Event,
it's fun, but every day, all the time, it's exhausting. So if I never had to choose food again, somebody just prepared food that was good for me, good, healthy.
Sounds like meal prep might be a way to go.
No, I've tried that. I don't like it because it still requires me to decide and then do all the extra effort. If I'm saying if I could really set it up and someone else, I had in a perfect world, I had a chef that and a nutritionist that worked together, and every day at a specific time, I just got delivered something to eat. That would be amazing. And then laundry. If I never had to wash, dry, fold, put away, I just woke up and I could go to my closet and things are where they're supposed to be, or to my dresser and things are where they're supposed to be.
First world problems here, you know?
Yeah, right.
First world problems.
I'm not saying they're not, but like
the first one's interesting though because there's something psychological happening
100%.
there. There's something like that your own ideas don't taste as good.
Generally, I mean, clearly, my decisions with food are not. They don't produce the outcomes that I want.
Oh,
in my
you mean
life,
you
right?
don't trust them?
Sometimes I don't.
You don't-
Sometimes
you
I
don't,
do.
You don't trust yourself to decide what to eat. Is that what you're saying for your health?
That's a very true
Okay.
statement. It's becoming
I
less
see.
true over time.
I was
I'm going
thinking-
through this whole transition. Like I've lost 70 pounds in the last year.
Great.
I'm going to continue to do that. I've got some more goals for this year to lose another. Where I'm at from about another 60 pounds,
Oh,
right,
shit.
to get to a place where I want to be. So like I'm going through the process of transforming my thinking and my habits to get to where I want to be. But I'm not where I want to be. But even then, it's the act of having to focus on something that is so mundane that always has to happen, that's always going to take time and attention away from something else. I find it a burden I don't want to carry.
Oh,
I don't want to waste my time
I
trying
get that.
to decide what to eat. Just give me some food so I can go do whatever else it is that I want to do.
I get that 100%. Some of my friends that struggle with their weight, they ask me all the time, like, what diet do you do? How do you control your portion size? And all these things they're thinking of. And I don't...
It's not an active thought in your world.
It's actually the opposite. The reality is it pisses me off that I have to stop what I'm doing to eat.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an inconvenience. It's
If I
like,
eat more than one meal a day, it's a big deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
In which that's probably not healthy either.
I doubt it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's look at the reality of the world that we live in. For thousands of years, people have not eaten 3 full meals a day and multiple snacks, or like the things
Yeah.
that people do now in these new diets. You got to eat 6 times. No, you don't. You can eat one.
It also depends
decent
on
meal.
body chemistry and things like that.
Yeah, there's
But-
a lot of factors, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
people that are high output need more
I
input.
know.
That's just the fact.
I know
of
what
it,
you're
but,
saying.
like,
I know what you're saying, though. Like, we evolved to be able to make it all day without eating.
Yeah.
Our systems are going to be fine.
yeah.
But I do think you need to sort of, in life, adapt. Your epigenetics have to be up to code on that. You can't just
Yeah.
eat 5 times a day your whole life and then all of a sudden not eat for 2 days. You're going to be very
Very
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you go to 4 and then to 3 and then to 2 and work through like intermittent fasting and things,
Yeah.
like you realize that
Yeah.
you don't need as much as what you think you need to survive.
Well,
That's right.
Yeah,
and that's
very
really the-
right. You
and
do
a
have
lot of
to-
people
you go
don't
through
realize-
an adaptive process. though.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when you feel hungry a lot, you're actually just thirsty.
Yeah, that's
Or
so
bored.
true.
A lot of people don't realize that you can feel hungry because you
Yeah.
are dehydrated.
There's
Yeah.
the
You know?
whole food and emotions thing. It's definitely a thing, and I get it. I'm sympathetic to it, not empathetic.
Yeah.
But
Very much.
yeah, man. And it's not that I don't enjoy good food. I do, but I to relate with you. Like, I like to cook sometimes just because I like chemistry and organization and order and art, and I like doing all that. But
I like
I
the
don't-
creative aspect of cooking.
yeah, but I don't think my food tastes better than someone else's. I'd rather a sushi chef make my food, bro.
Absolutely.
It's just like the best French fries you've ever ate are the ones you stole off somebody else's plate.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, yeah, they never taste as good as a free one. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, hunger's a drive, though, and it's an interesting place to practice controlling your impulses.
Yeah.
I go about 18 hours a day without food most days.
Which 18 hours?
So from the time I wake up until dinner time.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll wake up between two and 3 if I take my nap in the middle of the night there. I'll wake up at 2 or 3, go do my paper route. I'll drink some things, and occasionally I'll have like a Pop-Tart or something, which is terrible, but something just a little bit
Some sugar
to
in it, yeah.
kick in, But then I'll literally go all day, and especially when I'm cooking for a living, like I am now again. I'll be around food all day, won't try one bite of it. And then I'll go home, and I've seen so much food throughout the day. You know what I mean? I've already prepared 3 meals, 2 meals, whatever it is. I'm not interested in it, So there's times where I'll actually end up going 36 hours, once or twice a week where I don't have anything.
That works pretty well for you, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel...
You don't get lethargic or anything?
I don't lose energy levels. I don't.
That's good.
So it's been that way for a long time. Now I do go through periods of time where, like, if I'm, being extra physical this week.
Yeah.
On my day off, like if I take a day off, I eat and eat and eat. Mm-hmm. But if I'm busy,
catch up.
Food doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it really does matter what you're doing with your body too. For the record.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
When I was working at FedEx and dancing full time, and 18 hours a day of hard physical activity,
you got to put the fuel in.
I was still going 18 hours, but when I did eat, I ate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I eat at noon and 8.
Yeah. So I
it.
eat dinner between 7 and 8 o'clock at night. The rest of the time, you're lucky if I'm eating anything.
I flip between doing the morning and afternoon with no food versus like today I ate breakfast, right? If I eat breakfast, there are times where I won't eat lunch or dinner.
If I eat breakfast,
my 18 hours is from the time I'm done eating breakfast till after I wake up the next morning.
If I start eating today,
hours,
I start eating today, I'm eating today. But if I go all day without starting eating,
that seems very primitive. Like that's how we used to be. Like you'd go days without food, and you'd kill something, and you'd just eat it all day long,
and then live off of it until you get the next one.
You're a hunter gatherer.
I'm a Neanderthal, right?
Yeah.
In all reality, I feel. I think even you guys talked about this the last time you were here, and going through some of the content generation lately. I was watching some of the videos you've made.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kept coming up for me is, is changing other things versus changing yourself. Right.
Yeah.
If you want to change your business, you want to change your life, you want to change your family, you want to change whatever it is, you want something to be different in your world, change yourself. Because if you change yourself, you grow as a person, the other areas of your life are naturally going to change with it. You're going to grow in other areas if you change who you are.
Yeah, we talked about
grow.
personal growth versus professional growth.
Yeah, like if you want to grow professionally, grow personally. Because I guarantee the professional side will come with it. Or at least you'll be more successful at that growth journey when you tackle the professional growth versus the personal, right? You're more willing to take critical feedback.
Build the systems and the techniques and
because if you can't be real with yourself about the things that are in your world, there's no way someone's going to be able to come in and help convince you that the ways you think about business are going to be wrong.
Yeah, if your business,
you're not going to be able to change.
If your bank account is negative, I'm not going to take your advice on how to run my business finances.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because even though you might take it more serious because, oh, hey, I'm doing it for somebody else, it means more. You don't care enough about yourself to care about your own,
right?
But you care enough to make some money because of what I still don't like the idea of you don't know how to run your own finances or your own life,
right?
That's something that I feel a lot of coaches face, some imposter syndrome with, is who am I to tell you, how to go about something, or how you should live your life, or how you should look at life, or so I've ran into a lot of coaches saying, who am I to have the authority to tell you anything on a topic? And in the transition into my coaching and this newfound career, I've found that you might not know it all, but you still might know more than they do.
As long as you're one step ahead of somebody else, you still have something that you can teach them.
Yeah.
That's it. You only have to be one step ahead. You do not have to be 1,000 steps ahead. You don't have to know the true outcome of all the choices. You just know that this is the step that you should be taking in order to get to where you're wanting to go. Because I'm on that same journey.
Or you could discover it together.
Yeah.
I mean, there's real power in conversation. Putting two minds together, you can discover the thing together way better than you could by yourself.
The most inspirational and thought-provoking moments of my life were not done by myself.
Right.
I had someone else that thought
new ideas
in ways that were different than mine.
Yeah.
But maybe have the same framework or the same general life, approach, but like we share the same values in life, right? Not so much like you think exactly like me, but we think in similar patterns, right?
Yeah.
So if you can do that and then sit and talk about things, you can really discover a lot because again, someone else is going to think something, they're going to say it. It's going to provoke a thought in you that then you're going to think through things. It's like, oh, okay, well then, and it's the discovery and the romance of learning and growing. If you find somebody else that's where coaching or even just a good friend, that's it. Like you just need someone else to be alongside for the journey. You can discover so much more about yourself and others and the journey and grow together.
People are mirrors.
Yeah.
I'm learning it more and more. The more I interact with people and the more I study people, and the more I'm realizing that what I see in people is just projections of what's going on the inside most of the time, especially if there's an emotional reaction to it. It is definitely just a mirror for me to look in and say, okay, what's going on there?
Yeah.
And why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Why am I reacting the way I'm reacting? And that's where, change your atmosphere or change yourself or remove yourself from that situation comes in.
Yeah, I like that conversation. And you were talking about that when I came back in. It's and it's a major presupposition that my book is based on, is that you that any change in results will be accompanied by a change in self. That one way or another, like this idea that a lot of people carry around is that I'm going to change my results or something on the outside, but I'm going to stay the same.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like a change happens new results happen because of a change in something.
Yeah.
And it's usually something like a change of attitude, change in routine, change in thinking.
Change in the framing, the language that you use to frame it.
A change of venue is something happens about you that changes. So if you're trying not to change, but you're trying to get different results, you're like literally banging your fist against a rock.
To get something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before.
Yeah. But the rock doesn't break. Your hand does.
Yeah.
Eventually, it will work. It's just really slow. Well, that's what I see from observation is people who keep that incorrect thinking. They do eventually get new results. But it still was because they changed in the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Just from the pressure of failing miserably.
Yeah, I broke my hand 97 times punching this wall. I'm tired of it. Like,
even if they don't change, they stop punching.
Which is it?
A surrender.
Which is a change.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a change.
Yeah. So in my book, We Aren't Who We Are, essentially, I take that presupposition and I bake the whole the idea of putting that horse in front of the cart to pull the results along.
Yes.
And so far so good on the feedback.
So one thing that I wrote down in my notes that I wanted to talk about was you talked about putting a reward at the end of a hard day, or working towards something like that. And the thing that popped into my head was when I was running the IHOP here in town, I would work all day, and then I would make sure that at the end of my day I would walk outside and I would smoke my cigarette and I would look up at the sunset every day, even in the middle of a hectic restaurant that was making me want to go crazy. I would make sure to step out and I would just look up and relax for 5 minutes. And I would actually tell people, like, hey, I'll be in a minute. Like, I know that somebody's asking for this and this and that. Give me 4 more minutes and I'll be there. And so the taking the time to not fill your day with relaxation and pleasure, but still allowing yourself to have that after your productivity, I feel is something that I took from reading that part of your book there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good thing, man. You have to enjoy life. It's not all serious, and you have to be able to look forward to something.
Yeah, and I'm starting to. We talked about this the other day, where I'm to the point in my self awareness that it's almost becoming a problem because I'm too analytical about what I'm doing all the time, rather than just being in the moment sometimes now, where I'm constantly breaking things down and why is that happening and why is this and why is this and why. Well, it is, man.
Yeah.
It is. Be
That's right.
for a second, So that's what I'm taking from what I've read from what you have in your book so far. And
Good.
I wanted to share that with you. And then the other thing was you talked about how exercise builds our mind, and we kind of touched base on it a little bit earlier about how a lot of people don't enjoy exercise, right? So it's kind of one of those things where you're not just building your mind, the neuroplasticity or things like that, but like physically altering your brain, like I was talking about earlier, how that part of your brain grows when you do something you don't want to do, and so I thought that was really cool that you touched base on that too and included that physiological part of it.
Yeah, I observed that effect way more than I would have ever thought possible. There's a lot of times you'll see where people are thinking bad thoughts.
Yeah.
And they almost never think it's because their body feels like shit.
Yeah.
They think it's some circumstance. Yeah. And it can be confusing because there are circumstances that can make us think poor thoughts. Yeah. But the mistake is to not consider is that it might just be that you feel like shit.
Right.
And your brain is part of your body.
Yeah.
So your brain feels like shit. So all it can do is make shitty thoughts.
Yep.
You have to knock that out before you ask, should I change circumstances on the outside?
Right.
Because if it's just because you're dehydrated, or been eating poorly or whatever it is, then you didn't have to get a divorce.
Right. You could have just ate breakfast that morning and took a shower.
Right. Yeah.
Or
you could save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of effort because it's really hard to change the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some ways, I'd say it's impossible.
Yeah,
right?
It's definitely
the only thing you can change.
We talked about
thinking and habit. That's it.
We talked about how for a lot of people changing yourself is hard, but you said after a while it becomes easy to to change and be open to change. I think that same way with if you're feeding in trash, you're going to get trash out.
Yeah.
So that's another thing where you got to realize. Your physical body affects your brain just like your brain affects your physical body, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do you know where you think where emotions come from? People generally never think of this. Like they think emotions come from magic dust in the air or something, right?
Right.
Like that's, and I'm not making fun of people. Like that's sort of what we think.
Right.
Like we never stop and think emotions come from our body.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a physiological response, which is in turn felt a certain way, and that's how we're interpreting it.
Yeah, so if you feel bad, your feelings are going to be of lower quality and effect. You're more likely to feel bad feelings. So how you feel determines your feeling, and how your feeling determines how you feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny to hear you say it that way because of the word feel and feeling, right?
Yeah, right.
But you're absolutely right.
Things.
The physical feeling versus the emotional feeling. Right, one definitely fuels
feelings versus feeling something.
Right, and you can
the sense of feel,
and you can look at it logically speaking. Like, what if you told somebody like, "Oh, I've been feeling, I've been depressed. I want to be happy." Like, well, did you try like exercising?
Yeah, did you go for a walk or a run or?
There's almost like this gap. They're like, how exercising? Sure, that's not going to help. But like, really, it will.
Yeah.
Your feelings come out of that body.
Yeah.
That's where they come from.
Yeah, and there's a new study that is showing that flexing a muscle, using a muscle, retracting, and doing that actually is releasing not just chemicals into your body that help promote growth. And
healing, I saw this.
But also creates more energy in your body.
Yeah.
And our bones, I forget the exact term, but it's like electro. Basically, when your bones bend or have any kind of pressure on them, they create electricity. Yeah. So like when you go for a run, everybody's like, oh man, how do you go for a 4-mile run and at the end of it feel energized? It's because your bones were taking that impact and creating energy.
Yeah, you're stressing your body, and it's creating a positive outcome.
Yeah, so
that's really what's happening.
Yeah, we're still on this theme to where science is just figuring out shit we've known forever.
Yeah, right.
But it's like we won't believe it. Like,
Right.
when science told us in 9th grade health that our muscles are just these dumb bundles of fiber.
Yeah.
That all they do is contract and relax based on a neurosignal.
Right.
That's literally how they taught us muscles work.
Your brain sent a signal to that nerve right there that said, move that. And that was the end of it.
It's just a dumb bundle of fibers.
Yeah, there was no outcome to it other than just that.
But everybody in the world before science knew that every part of our body is more important than that, does more than that.
Yeah.
And of course now science is figuring out when you
They're actually trying to call it like a new, like a body system.
Yeah.
Not just your muscular system, but like they're
it
actually
controls
finding,
your endocrine system and all kinds of other things, your
Yeah.
brain and man, just
Yeah.
like we're just waiting for science to catch up. My only point of this is you can't really look to science for all the answers because science will admit we don't have all the answers yet.
Science is just a method of discovery. That's all it is, and we're just rediscovering it, and then just like visually and like looking at the data and understanding it
the
more.
quantum
But-
work that's being made or being done right now is amazing to me, and how they're actually finding like, hey, your heart actually is an electromagnet, and it really does send out a frequency and a vibration that attracts
Absolutely.
or repels certain things.
And my point about it is like you have to have that self-reliance to where if you test something out in your life and it works for you, but there's no scientific thing to affirm what you discovered, it doesn't matter. It still works.
It really doesn't.
Right.
Well, every one of us are here for a reason.
absolutely
We all are unique in some way. Just because it doesn't work for other people on a large scale, like science would be forced to, have in order for you to believe it from a scientific point of view, does not mean that you're wrong. Doesn't mean that what you're doing is not beneficial to the world at large.
That's
because
so
you are
right.
Who you are.
I had this argument the other day with a buddy because I do, like Luke was talking about earlier, I wake up in the morning and I do my hardest thing of the day. First thing I do is get in 43-degree water.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to talk about this, and it actually talks a lot about stress in the body, so I'm glad we're getting back to this.
Okay, so my quick point on it is my buddy was arguing with me. He's talking about all this science shit, how it doesn't even show that it does anything positive for you. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's definitely science that's backing that. But
not making a scientific proposition here. I'm telling you, this works for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I get in this cold water every morning, and I don't want to, and I win over me.
Yeah.
And that matters.
Yeah.
The way you feel about yourself getting out of that water for the rest of that day is way better than any scientific journal is ever going to tell you.
And then afterwards, I do some calisthenics and yoga and stuff, and then I start my day. And physically, I feel better than if I don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't need anybody to verify that for me.
Absolutely.
I started training for a 5K, and I went from smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day and not working out at all. Yeah, because I'm getting more air in my lungs. Yeah, got to fill it back up.
Trying to breathe deeper.
Yeah, but so I went from when I first started out to like a mile and a half, 2 miles. I was tired. And then I finally I'm getting to the point now where 5, 6 miles, 6.5 miles in, I feel like I could do another 6 mile run. And getting over that initial "this sucks," I think has really helped me in the drive that I have for our businesses now, and staying focused even through times where I don't want to be focused. I don't want to do that. I want to just go sit on the couch and watch a movie or do whatever. I'm up at 2 a.m. sometimes. Getting ready to get up at 3 or 3:30 to go deliver papers, and I'm still studying or working or talking to somebody about this business that we're building.
Yeah, the lesson there is like take action to be motivated instead of wait to be motivated to take action.
Yeah. And accruing knowledge doesn't do anything. You have to don't wait until you know a million things, because you're going to miss out on all the time to apply those things
and learn from that application.
Right. Okay, so you learn something. Try it.
Learn enough to get started.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to be a.
That's the story of my life,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
People are like, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "I'm doing this." Like, do you know what you're doing? Nope.
Not at all.
All
But I
the
know what
time.
I'm doing to get started.
I've
It.
had so many different interests in my life that people are like, "Man, you're like always on a new thing. You're always doing something new, crazy thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, what
What was the last thing you learned?
What are you doing? You
Yeah.
know, what did you learn today? What's
I
something
bet you
new
went to
that-
work and came home and did nothing new today. did
what's
you?
something?
Yeah.
What's something new that you did this year
Yeah.
compared to last? What did you do different this year than last year? Because if you did nothing different, chances are,
That's that great adventure, man. I wish a great adventure for everyone.
me too, man. I wish people would just go do new things and be. I've found out so many things I'm terrible at.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But it's fun to
Yeah.
learn, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not so terrible at them now.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far from the cold plunge thing because it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
like
I can
tinkering
tell
in the back
you're
of my
really-
mind.
you're
No,
into
I
this.
really am because I started doing it too. But
nice.
it started last. So this is April of 24. If anybody's listening way in the future, in February of 23. I'm still in the middle of a divorce. You know, I'm in. I wouldn't say
Best time to get in cold water.
Oh, I wouldn't say I
Hating
was
life, jumping.
mentally
Yeah.
in the worst place I'd ever been because I'd been depressed, like suicidal, like really dark
Oh,
places
man.
where like I was looking at the gun on my bed every day thinking like, hey, today's the day, like hard stuff, right? So like I've been in real bad places, but in the middle of it, this was the deepest emotional pain that I ever felt. Like my whole world was upside down. I'm living in a place I've never lived. I'm living alone for the first time in my adult life. 15-year marriage. I don't get to see my kids every day since the day where they were born.
It's a rough place for a
There's
man.
a lot of things. I don't have purpose right now. So like I'm in a bad place. So we decided, like, hey, we're going to go skiing. Neither of us had ever been skiing, right? It's February. We live in Indiana. There's nowhere to really go ski. There's a couple places, but they're all kind of crap. So we end up going to Michigan. You know, none of the mountains here are that big, right? So it's not like we're going to Colorado or anything crazy.
Right.
But we go up there, and
I nailed it, by the way. I just
he
want to share
nailed
this.
it.
Yeah.
I did not. I looked like a beached whale trying to even stand back up after falling, and I gave up pretty quick because it was not.
Everybody
for me.
in the group
Like,
gave up except me.
well, there was a lot of like my knees bad, and then like my overall weight. I've lost a lot of weight since then. I
Yeah.
told myself I'm going to lose weight so I can go skiing again at some point. And
That was a
not
good
be
motivator.
fat. It really was
Yeah.
because being embarrassed in front of hundreds of people was
Well,
a very
he decided-
very uncomfortable thing.
He
great.
decided he was going to go down the mountain first, and
Good.
nobody had been skiing, right? Well, he went down, got about halfway, hit the ground, and was not getting up. So my first time down the mountain was, I'm going to go save my brother. And so I somehow got down there, stopped and was like, hey, bro, I'm here. We got it. Just call, and he embarrassed. Right?
That's a great lesson, though,
It-
man. Go be embarrassed.
It was.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
it was bad, but I spent that day. I didn't give up completely on the full experience. I just gave up on, I physically don't feel like I can do this without hurting myself
it's
or
dangerous.
continuing to be embarrassed all day.
All
and
day
I'm
long.
not willing to do that right now.
That's
I'm
it.
too low. I cannot just burn. So like I got to a place where I'm like, I'm still going to be outside. I'm still going to enjoy the fact that we're on a snowy mountain. We're outdoors. We're doing something that I should be taking some enjoyment on, right? And so the act of just being cold all day
Yeah.
changed something in me. I don't really understand exactly what it is yet, but just the act of stressing my body instead of being in the 70-degree house all day, being comfortable,
So I learned
getting
that
outside
lesson
and doing something different changed something in me.
working
And
at the
so-
Walmart distribution center in the freezer, negative 25 for 10 or 12 hours straight. You really learn to be mentally strong
You
when
have
you
to.
have icicles hanging from your face.
I think it's
and
more
it's
than
been
that.
10 hours of it.
I don't think I don't know. I don't have any science to back this up. I'm speculating, but I think it's more than that. It's almost like I can feel my ancestral genetics unlocking and changing my body.
Yeah.
Like to survive.
Some genes are being activated in a different way.
Yeah, it really feels that way. I don't know if it's true or not, but
I feel the same
Damn.
thing, and like so coming into winter time, this last fall and winter, I told myself I'm going to make sure that I get cold. I'm not going to spend the entire winter inside. I'm not going to spend the entire winter being warm. People have survived by living outside in cold temperatures. People do it still today. So I told myself I'm going to be cold,
Yep.
and I'm going to force myself to stress my physical body to a point to what you're saying. People have done this for millennia, right? This isn't a new concept of having the extreme hots, the extreme colds, stressing your body, exercising, challenging yourself. These are concepts that are proving in so many ways that if I stress myself, I will have a positive outcome of some sort. Mental, physical, spiritual, something.
Stress leads to growth.
I am going to grow as a person and be better for whatever it is I'm doing. So
Yeah.
for me, this was a way I was like, I can just go sit on my front porch. I don't have to do anything really except just go be cold. So I'd go sit outside
Change your
for
surroundings.
10 minutes with just shorts and a flip-flops on. It's 10 degrees outside,
And you
but
get-
guess what?
and you
I'm
got better at it.
freezing. And it gets easier and easier.
Well,
And so then-
there is some science behind this where it actually increases your ability to heal yourself.
It does.
It's very rejuvenating for your skin and your cells.
And
all
that
sorts of
is
different
why
things, so.
polar plunges and ice baths, like there is real.
Well, we've been doing
real
it for
benefit.
thousands, tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Every culture has a version of it,
Yep.
and all the spiritual parts of cultures have a version of it for
Yep.
character, spirit, and body.
Yep.
So no doubt it has
I
value.
saw yours as we were coming in, right? And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I like this. Like yours is a bigger bath. Mine's just one circle that I sit in, and I don't have the external chiller. That's awesome. But like my water state, like because of the thermal, capability of the one I've got, it holds around 48 degrees pretty consistently. And I have it in my garage, so the sun's not hitting it. The
pretty cold,
temperatures, I mean, it's cold.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's even gotten into like 60-degree water. 60
That's
degree water
cold.
will freeze you. Like it is
Yeah.
cold.
I
40
I
degrees,
started
50.
about
It's-
60 because that's what came out of the cold tap here in
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah.
And I started working my way down. my theory is you don't want it because it started to feel good to me.
It does.
I adapted and it started to feel good. And I started to look forward to it. And I was like, I don't think this is right. So then I
Right.
was like, gotta make it colder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta make it colder.
Yep.
And eventually you can get it to a temperature where I don't think
It's always crappy.
no human will ever find it pleasurable.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
somewhere around 40 and below. It's impossible to ever get used to it.
Yeah, it's just so shocking to your system.
Have you
It
guys,
hurts.
Have you guys heard of the Iceman?
Yeah.
I believe he's
Oh,
Russian.
Wim Hof?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where I kind of heard about it.
He was
at
completely encased in ice
first. Saw that.
for 2 hours, and they went and took his core temperature.
It went
And it
up.
was-
It went up, not down.
Dude got hot and cold water.
Yeah.
Surrounded by ice,
Yeah.
heated his body
It's
up.
because he had trained his body repeatedly over and over and over consistently to thrive in an environment that is challenging.
No,
Yeah,
don't get me
but
wrong. When
that-
I was working in that freezer all the time for 10, 12 hours a day, it got to the point when I first got in there, I was bundled up in like big jackets and like overalls and things. By the end of it, I was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie going to town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sweating while
Yeah.
I'm in negative 25 degrees.
Cold air is one thing.
Yeah.
But
Cold
cold
water.
water.
Well,
Fuck.
I don't remember the
And
exact
he
ratio
stayed in
there.
there so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they checked every 15 or 20 minutes on his
not sure-
temperature,
I'm not
and it just
sure.
continued to raise.
I'm not sure if
Like-
every human's capable of that.
No,
he's got something a little special in his genetics. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
not. But still,
Well, I don't know. The only way to truly know is to go do what he's done for as long as he's done it,
Yeah.
and then try.
Right.
I don't have 40 years to dedicate to being cold.
I don't.
You ever see the videos of this
have
guy?
40 years left.
you see the videos of this guy climbing mountains, walking up the mountain in his Speedo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like-
that's just insane
Yep.
for
Yeah,
many
dude.
reasons. Not even because of the cold,
Right,
just
but like
the
why?
things
Why
that
you
could
doing
happen.
That? Why? Are you
Yeah.
doing that?
That's like wearing a Speedo on a motorcycle on the highway. There's some things you just don't do, right? Like,
Yeah, you're right
the
about
risks
that.
that come with it are just crazy.
Well, I have some anecdotal evidence that it changes something about your physiological state. I had things I noticed. I'm a pretty observant person of myself. One thing that happened after about 6 months of cold plunging is my tolerance to cold got better, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Not just that time, but all the rest of my time. My tolerance to heat got better, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Like my whole range of comfort
That is, I think,
got bigger. I would be
Yeah.
comfortable between like 55 degrees and 85 to 90 degrees. None of it bothered me,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
thought was interesting.
it's the
Also,
willingness to be uncomfortable. The comfortable,
well,
in the
maybe
uncomfortable.
maybe, but I think there's actual physical adaptation because I
Yeah.
wouldn't be sweating or shivering either.
Yeah,
It wasn't just mental. Like my body was actually
Like your
fine.
body was able to cool or heat itself
Better.
more, more
Right.
appropriately or
which
more
I didn't expect it
effectively.
to learn to cool itself better from cold water plunging. That's interesting.
I would have not expected that either.
It's almost like maybe they're linked somehow.
Kind of like when you, I don't know if you use food thermometers,
Just-
but old school food thermometers, you have to twist it. You put it into a glass of ice water and you twist it to where it says 32 degrees because ice water is 32 degrees all the time. If there's ice in that water, like a
Yeah.
whole cup of water with ice in it, 32 degrees. I think maybe, the way it's working in my head is probably you reset that thermostat in your head.
Yeah, well, your temperature regulation system, it's probably all related on both ends, hot
Right.
and cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You all you did was calibrate that thermometer.
Right.
Yeah,
You know.
by being comfortable all the time. Your homeostasis in modern society, at least here in the Western world, is I've got air conditioning in the summer. It's 70 degrees in my house, or 68, wherever you set it. In the winter, it's 68 or 70 degrees. It's always the same thing all the time.
Yeah, you become very hypersensitive to the
all
the
of
range.
the systems in your body atrophy to some degree, to the point where now you can't do the things that are at the extreme ends of anything. So you're uncomfortable at 75 because it's not 70.
I think we called it the bitch period.
The bitch period.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, the other thing I noticed that was weird is I used to be extremely sensitive to spicy food. Like, just a tiny bit of it was a lot for me.
Like sensitive to your tongue or sensitive to your whole body?
No, I don't.
your
Not
gut?
not like an allergic reaction or anything. It just like it would burn like hell.
Yeah.
One little jalapeno would burn like hell for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But after cold plunging for a year or whatever, my sensitivity to spiciness has gone way, way down.
Really?
So you can tolerate a lot of things you used
I
to
can.
not tolerate.
Yeah, there's no way I could have eaten the same things
Yeah.
a year ago that I.
That's crazy. I wouldn't have expected that.
I have
change.
no. This is the only thing I could think of that would have changed that.
Yeah.
It's the only difference that I made.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed is, and this is highly speculative, but there's this thing that happens like when you get people say triggered, which that doesn't happen to me often anyway, but I'm observant of my emotions. So like when something happens that triggers an emotion for me, I'm pretty observant of it. I noticed through training in cold water, like training my reaction to that cold water significantly strengthened my ability to deal with
To think before you act.
to deal with strong emotions.
Yeah.
Same way, like a strong emotion comes up now, and I really just look at it just like that ice water. I'm like, I see you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I feel you.
You
I got
can't though. You're not.
I'll sit in that emotion and I'll be
Yeah.
fine.
You're not gonna.
Right.
You're not gonna make me break, because the thing that I go through my head before I get in the cold water is, this is going to be a strong sensation.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to just let it be that.
Right.
Because
experience that sensation.
There's
And not let it.
there's a movement where sensation becomes suffering. Suffering happens in your psychology.
Yeah.
Sensation happens to your body. You can just have
Absolutely.
the sensation.
Yep.
The suffering is a choice. Like, well, maybe not a choice, but you can. It's a muscle you can work on not letting it become suffering.
Overpowering.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it translates into your emotional life.
Yeah.
If you
It
prep-
very much does.
You think so?
It has, at least anecdotally for me,
Yeah.
the willingness to sit in something that is very physically demanding of your body, to sit in cold water like that is a very stressful thing for your body. Your heart starts to race the first few times you do it until you can control it. Your mind is telling you, get
You're
out.
breathing.
You can't breathe. It takes
Yeah.
it
All of
becomes difficult.
Yeah.
All of it is mind over matter in that moment, which is, how do you control your emotions? Mind over matter. Like in that moment, you have got to use your thinking brain
Yeah.
to overcome the emotional reaction of whatever you're in.
So I've
right?
never made
And
it
so-
a habit to be, cold plunges or anything like that, but I've done them.
Yeah.
And one of the most memorable ones was in Tennessee. I jumped into a river that was glacier water running. Like it was literally like if it wasn't
Yeah, mountain
flowing,
water.
if it wasn't flowing like it was, it would be frozen solid.
Yeah.
That's how cold it was. And I ended up about 20 feet deep in this water because I jumped off a cliff into it, and then I had to swim upstream of this fast flowing current, and then climb up onto slippery rocks to get out of this water, right? And so, but as soon as I hit that water, my body went into shock. Like, oof, that is way colder than I expected. I'm way deeper in this water than I expected,
Yeah.
and now it's carrying me, and I have to not only, not drown, right?
Yeah, you're lucky
but
your arms and legs still work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at first I struggled to move, and I felt like all of the air in me got crushed and
Immediately.
squeezed out as soon as I hit that water, because I jumped from about
Well,
80,
both the height
85
and
feet.
the cold temperatures
Right.
will both do
all
that
of
to
it,
you.
and then you come up. There's literally a sign at where we did it. It's called drowning at the sink. There's been 63 or 67 people drown here. Don't become a statistic. And then me and my ex-wife climbed up there and did it anyway. But yeah, it was. I tell people all the time, I've never felt water so wet. I've never felt as wet as I did from that cold water that day. And we had towels on and blankets on after we got out, and we were still wet for hours. Like it did not make sense. Like we literally sat there, dried ourselves off. We're still wet. It cleared my skin up. I didn't have a blemish for 3 months. Like I felt better. I had more energy, all from just that one plunge into that.
Yeah.
You know? So I wish that I could add that to it. You know, add that to my routine, but I just haven't been able to yet.
I would definitely encourage you to, but I think that
I don't blindly believe in things. I test them.
Yeah.
And I've kept this one. It works for me. Like it for
agree.
sure.
The first couple times I did it, like the very first time I was just so excited that like it wasn't uncomfortable. It didn't really hurt. I was like, yeah, this is cold. But I was just like, hey, I'm doing this new thing. Like I'm really trying. I want to do that.
Yeah,
like I was so excited. I was like, okay, this is not going to suck at all because
wait till it wears off.
Yeah.
By the third time I got in there, like I tried to do 6 minutes. All right. And by the third time I got in there, I was 90 seconds in and I'm like, this sucks so bad. Like I could not get that thought out of my head.
6 minutes is a long time.
I got to 3 minutes and I gave up that time. But 3 minutes and 40 at that point, I started about
like
42
48
degrees. So it had like I let it kind of warm up. I was around like 46 degree water at this point because I don't have the external chiller. So I just add some ice to it, get it back down where I want to be, and just kind of regulate. But that third time I got to 3 minutes and I was like, this sucks. I'm done. I cannot do it anymore.
Most people that I know that do cold plunges, about 5 minutes is their limit, and then the people that are more intense about it go about 15.
Yeah,
I might have to try longer periods. I find that 3 to 5 minutes is about the point, because what happens to me, it isn't that I get to a point where I can't stand it anymore. It gets
you feel like you've got what you got out of it.
I get comfortable at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is control my mind, control my breathing, and you can actually control your body. I can control my heart rate. Over practice, I get better. Now I get in there and I can get relaxed within about 15 seconds. Completely relaxed.
It takes me about 45.
That's pretty. That's pretty quick. That's pretty solid.
And then there's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
You go through different feelings. You go from shock to this weird swollen feeling. And that kind of goes away. Your body regulates your blood pressure. Your blood pressure goes way up.
Oh yeah,
but temporarily. And then you go through this pain period where you just start feeling the sensation. It's nothing but pain. It almost feels like you're on fire.
Yeah, that's your body literally freezing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, everything closing up on you.
Yeah, and then I just accept it and surrender to it, and I don't make it into anything. But eventually, around 3 minutes, usually, I'm good. I could sit in there all day, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I get out, because now it's not serving much of a purpose for me.
Yeah, it's no longer a challenge.
It's like tiptoeing into a pool versus jumping into a pool. You know, if you jump into it, you're gonna get accustomed pretty quick. But if you tiptoe, it's gonna take you a while to get used to it. Right? It's gonna be cold longer if you don't just accept that it's cold.
Yeah, that's sort of the idea. But my whole practice with it was to work up here. So I've practiced the whole time. Like, okay, what's the problem? The problem is my body's reacting this way. Can I control it? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Until eventually,
building that confidence in that ability, I think, is huge if you want to make any other changes in your life, right? That are uncomfortable.
I think it translates. So I think it does translate.
Yeah.
I went through a period of time where I was training myself to hold my breath. It was just a weird thing.
That's a good one, yeah.
And I got to 2 minutes. And at this point, I'm like a full-blown smoker. You know, I was smoking marijuana. I was smoking cigarettes.
You get to 30 seconds as a smoker, that's a challenge.
For a lot of people.
Is it harder for smokers to hold their breath?
Yeah, you have less capacity in your lungs.
But you're not breathing, so why would that matter?
Because
maybe less oxygen in your blood?
Yeah, the conversion of what you're breathing into actual oxygen that you use.
The breath you took.
Yeah, there's little sacs. There's little sacs
of
in
your
lungs.
systems are not as high as they should be.
Little sacs in your lungs actually convert what you're breathing into the oxygen that you burn in your body, right? Yeah. And so those sacs don't convert as much. So a lot of people, like, you only get about 20% of what you're breathing, and by the time it gets into your body, you're only getting about 6%. And so, if you're only getting 6% of a full lung versus 6% of a 80% capacity lung, you're cutting out 20% of the time you're going to be able to hold your breath before your body's saying, "Hey, I need more oxygen."
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, when I got to 2 minutes, I was fairly impressed with myself, and it taught me to that I want to breathe feeling is an unbelievable motivator in life. Like, when you want to breathe but can't, And I didn't do it just like, oh, I'm sitting on the couch. Like, I would submerge myself in water to do it, and I would hold myself down until I literally felt like I couldn't go another second without drowning.
Yeah.
And then I'd go another second.
Yeah.
And that it changed
Concept
my
of
mindset a
one
lot.
more.
Oh, man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I want to try that now.
Yeah, so
That's a great survival system you can play with.
Yeah.
I remember reading about free divers. They would do that. You know what a free diver is?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
They hold their breath forever.
Yeah, they go 400 feet
Yeah,
down
it's
in the
crazy.
ocean and then back up.
I can't even fathom going more than like 10 feet into water and having to do it with no air. Like, that to
Yeah.
me is already terrifying.
I like free diving, but I've never been that deep or that long. But I remember reading of the world record holder saying something about like his method. One of his methods is to have that dying experience
Yeah.
right beforehand.
Yeah.
So like he almost exhausts that signal
Yeah.
on purpose, so he doesn't have it anymore
Yep.
when he goes down.
Yeah, because when I first started doing it, at 30 seconds, I was having that, hey, man, you need to breathe, you need to breathe, you need to breathe. And then by the end of it, even at the 2 minutes, I felt like I probably could have went longer, but I don't want to die today. You know what I mean? So, you know, there was a limit that I hit where, hey, I know this feeling. I know that I can push past that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't want to push a limit today.
yeah, you know, nobody's around.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
somebody's got to pull me out of the tub.
Yeah, nobody's here if I don't.
This
make
is
going to
sound crazy.
Right?
This is going to sound crazy, but I've always wanted to be waterboarded.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want, like, I'm not going to enjoy it, but I've always wondered, like, I want to have that experience.
See, I watch movies like Lone Survivor. I don't know if you've seen that one, the Marcus Luttrell story about, you know, Operation Red Wing, 2005. He was one of 4 Navy SEALs that survived a horrible event. I don't know if you've seen that or read the book. The book is way better than the movie. I encourage everyone to read it. But in the movie, at least, part of the early scenes that you see are them training as a Navy SEAL. And one of the things that Navy SEALs do is learn how to survive in water. That's the whole thing, right? Yeah. Or one of the things. They do a lot of things. But they spend a lot of time underwater, not being able to breathe. Right. Yeah. And they do that on purpose because, well, the real world is you're going to be put in situations where you can't breathe, and you have to be able to think and act accordingly in those moments, right?
Yeah, and when your brain's lacking oxygen, thinking coherently
is very difficult. Or in cold water, like any extremes, right? And so
it is very difficult to think in extremely cold water.
It is. Like you get to a hypothermic state, your brain's gone, right? Like it just doesn't work. And so
other functions are more important.
Yeah, your brain's focused on survival,
your survival,
not logical.
Yeah, it switches.
Let's give energy to keeping our heart beating and our lungs working.
Right.
Not what we're thinking about.
Right. And so like when you talk about wanting to be waterboarded, like it's a weird thing to say out loud to other people that don't understand what you actually mean by that. It's like, I don't want to go be tortured. I want to put myself into a stressful situation to prove to myself that I'm capable of surviving against certain odds, right? At least that is for me. So when I watch those movies and I watch what these guys go through, it's inspiring to me, right? That's one of the reasons why I joined the military when I was young is I want to go put myself into a situation that I look at people that go through it and say, you are the kind of person I want to be because you have the mental and emotional, physical strength to endure things that the vast majority of people are not willing to do and are just flat out incapable of doing.
Yeah.
There's something awe-inspiring about that. And so I watch those things in the same kind of concept, maybe not waterboarded, but like put myself into a situation where drowning is a very real possibility. Like, not that one specifically, I guess, because I have a real fear of water and drowning. Like, it's one of the ways I don't want to die.
See, that's just it.
But like,
that's the
point.
That's
just what I like about it.
Yeah.
So the thing to really,
like, you may not actually die from it, depending on how often and how long, and like, there's certain limits that like you could survive it.
Well, there's this thing like everything you're scared of essentially comes from the same place.
Yeah,
and I always feel like the deeper you can go, like waterboarding would be the worst because you actually start dying. You actually are dying. You get to feel what it's like to be dying in the worst way ever.
Yeah.
So
you're aspirating water.
So can you imagine like the next day being afraid that somebody's going to talk shit about you?
Right. Like,
you know what I mean?
So
like, it really recalibrates. What are you afraid of now?
What's really important, right?
You're more afraid of existential things, like extreme, not.
So there was an interview. There was an interview that I watched with Jim Carrey, where the movie The Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, where he was all dolled up and all that makeup and stuff. He said that it was literally torture, because he would have to sit there 8, 10, 12 hours getting that stuff put on him in the morning, right? And he actually had a CIA specialist, torture specialist, come in and teach him how to deal with torture to be able to sit through just the makeup process for that role. And so I think it would be really cool, kind of the concept of, oh, I want to go get waterboarded, kind of the same thing. He went and was taught how to deal with torture and how to work through those moments of, I'm getting crushed, I'm going to break.
Yeah.
How do you get past that? Because he was losing his mind, having to sit there for 8 hours, 10 hours, and have all that prosthetics and all that makeup and all those people touching and being on him all that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so you're not the first person I've heard, hey, let's learn how to be tortured.
That's a crazy concept for most people, though.
I do have to get going here in just a moment.
Yeah.
So.
That's a great place to end,
Yeah.
What the difference between people, like, have you become the person that wants to be tortured yet?
Yeah. Do you actually look at that with the anticipation of what you're going to learn and take away from it versus how horrible of an experience and how bad am I going to feel?
You're going to get tortured either way, kind of like you said earlier. Are you going to choose how you're tortured?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I choose to get in the cold water.
Choose your heart.
I choose to have someone pour water over my face when I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, man, I hope you guys choose some great challenges in the future. I'm glad you came and we had this conversation.
Likewise. It was great to be here. I love this conversation.
We're both talkers, I told you.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think we let him get a few words in.
Yeah, it's his
3
show.
hours.
We think we'd let him talk a little bit more.
No, it's a good conversation. I liked it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I guess I'll see you guys next time then.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having us, man. I appreciate
man.
it. All right.